Welcome into the studio. That right there is the Elegoo Neptune 4 Plus, which happens to be a large format monster that I think you're really gonna like. But before I get to that, before I show it to you, we'll put it up here on the bench. I printed this awesome little Mario mushroom at 133% on that machine. And come on, seriously, it's freaking awesome. I'm also gonna share with you why we have a 27-inch CRT behind us and we're 3D printing a bunch of vintage retro Nintendo things. Stick with us, here we go. All right, before we actually bring the machine up here on the bench, we're gonna put this together and we're gonna do that with some Gloop. So let me grab some. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these little white spots on first, because I think, don't they look cool? I love it. Don't they look good? It's so fun. And like I said, I'll have the link to the model in the description below. But, oh, how do you like that? The CRT behind me is my overhead cam. Pretty sweet, huh? And I'll tell you a little bit more about that here as we go on. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit, and it doesn't even take this much Gloop. I'm kind of being excessive here. It does not take that much Gloop to put this on. It really doesn't. That's kind of overkill. This is gonna be pretty sweet. Hey, wait a minute, are we even going on there? Where's it touching? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, interesting. Well, that Gloop was wasted. It looks like the model actually doesn't even touch there. So I think that the way that we're gonna do this is I'm actually gonna go around this edge. All right, we're gonna put a little Gloop on this edge right here. And we're gonna see if that's where it's making contact on here. So we gotta be very careful. Do it like that. Yep, that was it. It does not take much Gloop at all to put this on to get it to hold. And I could tell, even with just those four little contact points of Gloop, yeah, that was it. See it? And then to get it where you want, it's gonna set up really, really fast. And then we can move on. Top, bottom, left and right. And that is gonna be enough to hold that on there. Watch. Just like that. Kind of get it where you want. There it is. Maybe you can kind of feel it on there. It's like you can feel it. It feels just like any other type of glue, but it's gonna set way faster than any type of super glue. It's a chemical adhesive, right? But it creates a weld between the PLA parts. So ultimately it melts them and fuses them together. So if you were to try and rip these off, it's not gonna come apart where the Gloop's at. It's actually gonna come apart at the layer lines. It'll actually tear either this filament off or it's gonna tear this filament off, one of the two. While I'm doing this one, I'm putting this last one on, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the filament. The red is a 3-year-old spool that was open of Raise 3D PLA. Now think about that. No bag, no drying, a 3-year-old spool of Raise 3D, right? PLA, sitting out in the open. I just grabbed it, threw it in the machine, and hit print with the standard, I think just a standard Elegoo profile for PLA. And look how it turned out. I mean, come on. So good. Look at this. Isn't that so good? Look at this. Come on. All right, so eyes. Let's get the eyes in, because I think the eyes really make it. So this is, and the white spots are Polymaker's Polylite PLA White, and this is Polylite PLA Cream. Interesting. I think it's a good color for this. So anyway, so now the eyes themselves, they're just gonna set in kind of like that. And so we'll just put a little bit, and it's not, like I said, Gloop, it doesn't take a lot. And see, like even that much right there, so you can get the lights to shine out, see the light shining right there? That's even too much. It doesn't take a lot of Gloop. And it's just a matter of seconds. Like, look at that. Like, see it? It's in. So if I was to not have Gloop on it and put that in, they just fall out. But see, that's already locked in. It's pretty fantastic stuff. Like I said, I'll have a link on the screen, and if you use LM Show, it'll save you 10%. Okay, and I don't get anything. I don't get any kickbacks from Gloop. So just a good product. But they are a sponsor of our show and our content. There you go. Look at that. Come on. Look at it. That is simply fantastic. That is such a fun print. And that's a Mario mushroom. Again, Raise 3D 3-year-old spool of filament PLA, white Polymaker Polylite PLA, and cream Polylite PLA from Polymaker. This is 3D Gloop. Doesn't it look good? I'm looking at a monitor up here so I can see it, but that looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? I don't know. I like printing really big things, and some of this stuff is just fun to print, right? Anyway, now that we've got the machine up on the bench, and I told you that I would explain to you why we're printing some of these Mario things in kind of vintage retro. Why do we have a 27-inch RCA true flat CRT television behind me that's, I don't know, 22 plus years old or something like that? Well, why? Well, because I have a second channel, and let me explain that second channel to you. I have a 3D printing addiction, if you haven't figured it out, right? So we have an entire studio here, and we have an entire Studio B over that way, and you may have seen some filming done in it. But we live stream from both studios. This is an entire wall of Polymaker filament, and I'll have a link on the screen, and they are a fantastic sponsor of all of our content. And we have an entire filament wall of Bambu over in Studio B, and you'll see more of that studio in upcoming videos. Now, here's the thing. I want to invite as many people as I can into 3D printing, and we can do that by creating 3D printing content. But also there's people out there that don't yet know about 3D printing. They don't know to search for 3D printing. Maybe they don't even know it exists. Well, I have a way to find those people and bring them in. And that is if I am able to explore another passion of mine, and that is vintage and retro tech, right? So I grew up in the 80s and I grew up in the 90s, and I absolutely love the vintage retro gaming systems and Ataris and Amiga and Commodore and NES, right? I love that stuff, and I want to share that with people. Also, I want to share the tech life that I had, right? So I was back dialing into BBSs. I ran a dual node BBS back in the days, and we are going to build some period correct machines, like a 486 DX250 or a DX266, and we're gonna throw DOS 5 or 622 on it, and we're gonna load Wildcat BBS on it. We're gonna have a lot of fun. But I can also throw a 3D printing twist on it, where we get to share 3D printing with them, and I have some really fun ways to do it. Now that channel is already sponsored, which is pretty cool, right? And it is right now the best channel on YouTube. And why? It's kind of like Schrodinger's YouTube channel. It has no content on it yet. But hold on, hear me out. I'm gonna have a link on the screen, and I would love to invite you to give that channel a subscribe. We are editing the content for it right now, and the initial videos are gonna be up soon, and I would love for you to be there when they go live. It is youtube.com/@LMAfterHours. Reach over there, give it a subscribe. I'll have it in the description. Now let's go ahead and let's get into this machine. This is a big machine, and it's a big machine that doesn't come with a big price tag, which is kind of crazy that in 2024 to see machines like this at this low of a price. So this machine is $350. Now I'm gonna go through all of the main features really quick, and then we're gonna dive deeper into some of the more specifics, but you will see exactly why $350 is an incredible deal for this machine. And then I'll give you my thoughts on who I think this machine is for at the very end, and we'll also look at some of the print quality as well. What really separates this machine from some of the others in the industry right now at machines that are kind of over 300 millimeters cubed is that this is a 500 millimeters per second Klipper machine, which means it comes with input shaping, pressure advance, and it comes with the web interface and things like that. Now, typically you're gonna be printing around the 200, 250 millimeters per second, maybe up to 3, but you can print up to 500 millimeters per second. I mean, that's what it's for. Now, before we go any further, I wanna quickly mention that because this is Klipper based, and I'm gonna mention this in every single video whenever I cover a new Klipper machine until they kind of address it, when you connect this to your local area network, whether it's Ethernet or Wi-Fi or whatever, it enables a web management interface. And by default, that web management interface does not have authentication enabled, which means anyone that connects to your local network would be able to control this printer, which means they'd be able to control the motion system, they'd be able to control the temperature, which means they could heat it up or they could drive the nozzle into the build plate. Now, There's a way to fix that, at least with the fluid interface that comes with this implementation of Klipper. Go to the web interface once you've connected it to your local network, go down to Settings, then up to Authentication and add a username and password. Now, for those of you who don't want to do that, then I would just recommend not connecting it to your local network, and you can use it the traditional way with a USB key. That's how you print to it. Oh, and for those of you that are a little bit more technical, it does use a maker-based board and installation of Armbian. So the username is MKS and the password is maker-base if you want to SSH into it. Also, this is really important, and I've spoke on this several times with a lot of these new input shaping Klipper machines. I am not a big fan of hard-coded input shaping. And I was very happy to see that this machine comes with an accelerometer on both the X and the Y. And that means that input shaping can be calibrated on the fly on the machine, which is good to see. So that's a positive. Now, some of these other additional main features are it has auto bed leveling and it does have manual knobs. There's a combo there, but it does 121 point auto bed leveling mesh, which is pretty exhaustive. It takes a few minutes, but it works extremely well. It also has a filament runout sensor and power loss recovery. Now, the Neptune 3 Max that I had did not have the power loss recovery enabled by default in the interface, and I was very happy to see that in this Neptune 4 Plus that it does have power loss recovery enabled by default. I ended up losing a massive print because we lost power up here on the ranch. So I'm glad to see that's in there and enabled. And of course, you heard me mention it earlier, it does have both Wi-Fi and Ethernet printing, which is nice. Assembly was pretty simple. The instructions were very clear, very straightforward. I think an average person could put it together in 20 to 30 minutes, and I think that it's even easy for novices or first-time printer owners. Now, don't assemble it like mine with the spool holder leaning forward. I have filament shelves back here, and the printer is quite tall. It's a large printer, and with the filament holder in the correct spot, it was kind of touching the shelf there, and I didn't like it. So I ended up just reversing it, leaning it forward, and moving the sensor. Yeah, however, it's kind of nice that it's versatile enough that it can accommodate any configuration. I like it. The build volume on this machine is quite large. Like I said, it's 320 by 320 by 385 millimeters on the Z. And it uses a 320 watt heater that heats the build plate up to a max temperature of 100 C. Now, the website for Elegoo had both 110 C and 100 C kind of spread throughout, saying that was the maximum temperature, but I verified the highest I could get this to go is 100 C, which is pretty good. That's a classic combination that we're gonna see from here on out. We're gonna see lots of 300 C on the hot end and a lot of 100 C on the build plates. The build surface itself is a single-sided PEI-coated steel magnetic sheet, so it's pretty standard. I would have liked to seen a double-sided sheet, but it really doesn't matter. It's a good surface, and everything that you print is just going to stick really well to it. And if it doesn't, you can still add a little bit of glue stick. Now, the tool head on this machine is all metal. In fact, it's titanium, all titanium. And it gets to a max temperature of 300 C, which, like I said, that's kind of the classic combo now, 300, 100. And this one uses a 60 watt ceramic heater, and it heats fast. Like, set it to 210 or 220, turn around just for a few moments, and when you look back, it's already passing 200. It's quite impressive at how quickly it heats the hot end. Now, the build plate itself, it heats up to 60 C relatively quickly. If you're trying to get to something like 100 C, the build plate, it takes a little bit of time to creep up there. Now, with the hot end that gets up to 300 C, that means you're gonna be able to print all of your classic filaments like PLAs, PETGs, TPUs, which are your flexible filaments like I have here, as well as your ABSs, ASAs, and even nylons. Now, of course, with nylons, ABSs, ASAs, you're likely gonna want those printed in a heated enclosure, which can be done, right? So you can kind of put the machine inside of a heated enclosure as long as you take the interface and kind of probably get that interface outside of that enclosure. And you might have to worry about overheating the electronics in the machine, but it is possible. So at least the machine can get to those temperatures. Now, as far as the motion system goes, it's using V-wheels, and it's doing that on the X, the Y, and the Z. Now, I know a lot of people aren't super happy that machines are coming out with V-wheels, but I will say this, that when you have a machine that's priced as low as $350, V-wheels are likely going to be the mode of transportation for each of these axes. So that really doesn't bother me. The benefit of V-wheels is they'll dial in, they'll kind of find their groove, and you're gonna have smooth prints. Now, I will mention this. My machine here, whenever I was traveling at a high rate of speed, like not printing, but the travel with the bed on Y, I would get a little bit of a squeak. And it was enough squeak that it was a little bit annoying, but I couldn't quite exactly pinpoint where it was coming from, but it was only during those high-speed travel movements above 200 and some millimeters per second. However, I did search, I did look, no one else was experiencing that as far as I could tell. I don't know, I just thought I'd share it. It wasn't a deal breaker, but I just thought I'd share it with you since it was something I experienced. Now, if you've ever used an Elegoo machine before, you will know that Elegoo spends a lot of time on the consistency in their interfaces. So whether you're using a 3 series or a 4, the interfaces for Elegoo have always been quite nice. Now, integrating Klipper into these machines, different brands, I've kind of noticed that some of that consistency disappears, right? So Klipper's quite a bit different from Marlin, and they're not really, some of these other companies are not really focusing on that cohesive interface design, that user experience. They're not worried about it being similar. Well, I've noticed that Elegoo has done a fantastic job of creating an interface that is just absolutely gorgeous, and it's simple to use, and it feels very Elegoo. So this is a 4.3 colored touch display, and it's very Klipper, right? It's very Klipper, but it's nice, and it's really simple to use. Everything is right where you'd expect it, and I'm quite happy with it. And and I've said in other videos that I didn't really use this, right? Didn't do anything for me. Well, it's kind of growing on me now, because I found that when I had the machine sitting back here on the bench, I would actually reach over that, I'd spin my chair around, I'd reach over and I'd pull that off, and I would do that in my lap rather than standing up, leaning over the machine and pushing the buttons. So anyway, nice interface. I think you'll enjoy it. Cooling on this machine is pretty awesome. This machine right here is running dual 2015 part cooling fans, right? And now also what sets this Neptune 4 Plus apart from other machines is on the back here, we have a curtain of air, a blower right here, and it's running dual 6025 blower fans, and which it's got a little switch up here where you can turn it on or off. And so you can, print quietly, or you can flat blow some air. But on these faster machines, cooling is really critical because it's laying down filament so fast that you have to cool it just as fast in order to get the next layers down. And I really think it's cool that they went with a big old blower fan on the back. A neat design, I like it. But yeah, that is a big fan that moves a lot of air. Slicing. That is something that is really important. That whole user experience dynamic, from the computer to the printer, from loading filament and to slicing and it printing and then pulling the print off, that whole user experience is important. And I was very happy that there are default profiles in one of the most popular slicers on the market right now, which happens to be Orca Slicer. That was simply going into Orca Slicer, selecting Add Printer, searching for Elegoo, selecting the Neptune 4 Plus, add, done. As far as network printing goes, I did connect it to my local Wi-Fi network that we have set up here for 3D printers, and I just added the device, put in the IP address, and it's one-click printing right to this machine, and it's awful convenient, awful nice. So your slicing experience inside Orca will be absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I don't think you can really ask for anything better. The two best slicers kind of on the market right now happen to be Bambu Studio, right? That's a fantastic experience with those machines. And of course, Orca Slicer, which is based on that source code. So it's a good experience. Now, print results. We have printed a bunch of things on this, and what you're looking at right now, B-roll, is I'm hoping you're looking at this. And this is the Mario Mushroom that we printed at 133% scale. And we did it at about 200 to 250 millimeters per second, which, like I said, it can go much faster, but I want to say that it turned out absolutely perfect. I'm holding this in my hands, and I cannot find a single problem whatsoever. I did have, there's somewhere on here where I felt like there was a little bit of what I thought might be over extrusion or something like that, but I do remember what that was. My bench is not 100% level, and I shimmed under one corner of the printer with like a little piece of paper under one of the feet, and while it was printing, and that was enough that I caught a little, and it might be right there. Maybe I can get that. I don't know if I'll get that in B-roll or not, but right there's a little bit of a line, and that's not the printer's fault. That's me messing with the printer when it was printing. So there you go. Look at that. The print quality is what you'd expect. Just beautiful. And what a cool print, huh? That good? I'm happy with it. I can't wait. We're gonna print some larger things on it, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Ultimately, who is this machine for? I really think this machine is for everyone. So the interface itself, like I said, because it's Klipper, if you're not technical, I just wouldn't connect it to your local network, or I would have somebody come over and set that authentication for you or help you with that. But I really believe that this machine, the Elegoo Neptune 4 Plus, is for everyone. A novice can assemble it. It's really simple to do. And the printing experience is pretty simple. It's pretty fantastic. Inside Orca Slicer, that's a free download onto your machine, whether you're on Mac or PC. Adding printers to it is really simple. One click sending prints right to it or using the USB stick. It's just fantastic. This is a wonderful machine, super high quality, and I think that ultimately anybody is gonna have a wonderful experience. And I think for $350, you are getting yourself a super fast helmet class, right? So big machine, 320, 320, 385 on the Z. So just for those of you who don't know the millimeters, that's more than 12 inches square by 15 inches tall. That's huge. So it'll print anything, little things to big things, and you'll be super happy with it. And I would like to give a huge thank you and a big shout out to our YouTube members and our Patreon supporters. You are what make this content possible. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Love it. So good. I like doing these.